just want to kick off with this thought. There's nothing wrong with licks. I would always advise that you learn licks that you like the sound of and just get them by ear, because that's the best practice. Both for ear training and also, just building a unique vocabulary which isn't like other people's. I mean, you can go, for instance, to Christian Van Hemmert's page, and he has, or Jens Larsson's channel, and they always have good licks. But they're great licks, but they're the ones that they've chosen. So perhaps you might choose different licks to transcribe. So I'd always encourage people to do that. However, after a while, you're going to want to improvise a little bit more freely, and this is a bit tricky, right? A lot of people have trouble making this leap, and it was listening to a podcast, Jude Girls podcast, an interview with Scott Henderson, which really put it all in perspective. And it's something that I always thought of as my own habitual laziness, but it's actually quite a good thing. And it also relates to what I find appealing about, for instance, the Barry Harris system of learning to do bebop, basically. So that's basically that. I've never really learned like massive snippets of music. I kind of mostly learn bits that I then apply. For instance, as a Charlie Christian solo, I learned like 4 years ago, and I cannot remember it, but I remember things like this and this, stuff like stuff like that, which I use in my playing all the time, or that kind of stuff. They're useful little things, but they're not very long. And Scott Henderson said that jazzers don't learn, lines of more than about 6 notes. And I'm thinking like 6 is almost too much. So where am I coming from with this? Well, the thing is that when you improvise fast bebop, right, you have little time to really think about what you're doing, and the more you think, the more you're going to trip up. It's like running along the road and thinking about what foot you put in front of the other. It's a disaster. So what you need actually is a way of chunking things together, what psychologists call chunking. And the way that I think I do it personally, and I suspect probably a lot of other players do, is that you kind of have little bits that kind of are about two beats long, or maybe sometimes a bar long, that you kind of chunk together. And when you're improvising, a bebop tempo, you can think about, if there's, I think about 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1, or even longer chunks 1 1 1 1. That's not too fast to think. So I have these little chunks of information that are available to me, and I've kind of kinesthetically drilled into my fingers, so I can actually because you have to practice things in a kind of muscle memory way in order to play anything fast. Okay, that's just a given. But then because you're working in little modules, you can chop it up and move it around. So I thought I'd just give an example of how this might work. I realise that I can only really remember one lick, which is a Wes Montgomery lick from Smoking at the Half Note on 4 on 6. It goes like this. Okay, what does that happen? Zaba zoba zaba zut zeza zumba ba bam bari bam bam bum ya ba bora ba ba bum. Okay, right. So that's basically it. It happens over a 5/1. I mean. So it's kind of not really enough time for the whole 2 5/1 to happen. It's just kind of F7 going to B flat. Yeah. There's a G minor line there as well. G minor 2 5 1 line. Okay. Let's take the first bit of it first. I've already covered this first part of the lick in another video. Okay, in the theory video that I did. So I mean, from a sort of chord scale perspective, this is flat 9, sorry, sharp 9, flat 9, 1, flat 7. So you can break that to a number of scales, including the half-whole diminished and the altered scale. Doesn't really matter. What I find interesting about it, though, is basically it's identical with E flat natural minor, or actually B flat natural minor for that matter. So it's like a minor major interchange. And they have this sort of wrap around to the third. 1 2 and 3 and 4. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. It's actually too many notes. So this little bit of information. That's what I call if you put 4 notes in it. It's a bebop tetrachord, but there's not 4 notes in this, so it's just, you see that all the time. This is a good way to play over an altered dominant, but then also it's actually, it works just as well over E flat minor, A flat 7. Like the first, you know, the ba 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 da. So ba 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 da ba da. You know, like in the first few bars of Yardbird Suite, for instance. You know, that means it can also function as a way of getting back from 4, right? So like in I don't know the what was it, bars 5 to 6 of rhythm changer. So you've had some rhythm changer stuff going on. So you put it there, right? So, you know, as a way of getting back to B flat. So it's a really useful little line, that. Now this is what Barry Harris would call a 4 phrase, but you know, a lot of people call that an enclosure of D. It's a really, really common phrase. So, you know, one thing to do is you can maybe start to build up like a little blues. Or you could do the whole phrase. Up a fourth to get E flat. We're going to go up a fourth again because it's a relative minor of C minor, and that will work well. So let's sing it over those chords. Sorry, I got it wrong. Ya ba 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 de ba 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 da ba. That's it. Was it? The second part of the phrase. So you can see how it's got like a few different possibilities. That relative minor thing, by the way, if I do it over the G minor 251, so the phrase is Wes plays it. Sorry, by the way, my scat syllables are just bizarre, so I don't know where those are coming from. You know, I think maybe it's just sleep deprivation. You be the judge of that. But you get the idea, hopefully, that you can play that not only over a B flat 251, but also over a G minor 251 as well. So, you know, we've got already like loads of possible uses of that. Just to recap, you know, you can play at E flat, go into B flat, you can play into G minor, and play into B flat, obviously, like that with a 251, and there's probably other things I haven't thought of, but that'll get you started, right? Interesting thing, Wes Montgomery is not a big player of the third on the dominant. He doesn't like that A. That A to him is kind of corny, so he avoids it. He does this quite often, actually, and he does also in the second lick, as we'll see in a second. The second, or well, maybe more the third part of the line. There's a little bit of filler, but it's really, really nice. It's like this really simple little phrase he plays in the B flat chord. So, sorry, it starts on the beat. How hip is that? It's just 3 notes. So it starts on the 7th of like the B flat chord. And ends up on the 1. Apparently playing the 1 on a major chord isn't hip, but Wes does it all the time. So does Parker and Leslie Young and Miles and just about everyone. Okay, so then A minor 7 flat 5, which is you know, this is where we get this line. Now this is just a descending G natural minor scale, but it starts on the 3rd of C minor 6, which is the same thing as a flat 5 of A minor 7. Now if you look, I just like just for thinking in C minor than A half diminished, but you might be different. I'll try and so 1 and 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3. That's a A minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio, and it's also a C minor 6 arpeggio. It goes to the 6th as G minor, right? So in this case, Wes is avoiding the 7th again. He just doesn't seem to like the 7th very much. Sorry, the 7th of the key, I beg your pardon, the leading note, or the 3rd of the dominant chord, so in this case F sharp on the D7. He just doesn't really think that's very cool, I think. And I kind of notice the same thing with Lester Young, even. If you look at his solo on Lady Be Good, you'll notice that he doesn't like the F sharp either, and he's playing in the key of G major, so it's like the F sharp and D just doesn't play it, which has the effect of making the whole thing float a bit more. Sounds a bit cooler. So there you go. So that's an example of the way I break down those 3 separate bits of language, just to make them a bit more useful. That by the way, that's very simple, like G natural minor going to the 6th of G minor is really started me thinking about altered dominance, and the fact that you don't really need to sort of do clever stuff on dominant chords in minor keys, like that's just very, very simple. It's just that, or there's no sort of altered scale there or anything. It's very simple to do that. Now the altered scale is like great colour, tritone substitutions, half-fold scale, whatever you like, but it's not necessary to use that. So you can play a lot more fluidly and conventionally melodically just by playing diatonic scales, and I think it's something that's often overlooked. But anyway, I've made videos about that, so I'm not going to bang on too long about it. So this is where does Barry Harris thing come in. I think what's really great about the Barry Harris system, like the added rules for scales and stuff, is not that they put the chord tones on the beat or whatever. I don't think that's as important. Barry's exact words are, we add notes to the scales to make them come out right. So coming out right is important if you're playing in modules. So for instance, if I play this little phrase starting on the A, the 3rd of F7, 1 and 2 and 3, so doing that added note between a 1 and the flat 7, we come out on the beat, 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3. Now what we do with that 7 is up to us, 1 and 2 and, so we can play an arpeggio off the 7th, right, or chord as Barry Harris would call it. Or we could do a tritone substitution and use that as a 3rd of B7. Like that, right? And then resolve into B flat. So it gives us 2 options. So this is the module here, or pivot version of the same thing, and this is another module. So this might be nice. 1 and 2 and 3. That's another module there, resolving into B flat, right? So the more you kind of experiment with these little sort of 2-beat or even 1-bar modules, the more ways you'll have of combining them. And I think that's a really powerful tool for like up-tempo bebop improvisation. If I just have a go at sort of playing over, this progression from the Wes tune. And again. These are all just like little sort of lines, little linelets. I'll try and break one down for you. So yeah, so this thing is very much a me lick. So one thing that Scott Henderson mentions in his interview, which is really, really true, is that you start, even if you aren't learning other people's licks, you start to crystallize your own licks as you find ways of combining these things together. So this, or depending on what rhythm I play, or just there's different rhythmic variations on it, but the basic thing, that is probably the most common one that I play. So, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 ends on the beat, right? It's just like a combination of this thing, which is a C minor 7 arpeggio with a sort of neighbour tone on the upbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, or after 1 is probably more common. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. So ends on the more obvious beat. Or after 3, 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. For instance, that is this thing, this C minor 7 with the upbeat, and that's what Barry Harris calls a 4 phrase, starting on the 4, which is a wraparound of the A on F7, I'll do another one on the B flat, on B flat major chord over the D, which is why it probably works better if I start after beat 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's an obvious resolution. One, two, three. Okay, so that kind of works better with the 2-5-1. But you know, I might find ways of breaking up that thing. So I could do that instead. You know, put other modules in. They don't have to be bebop. It's like a sort of broken up pentatonic scale that I use a lot. So I think, you know, again, like Scott Henderson isn't a bebop player, obviously, but I don't think it really matters what style of music you play, although I think Scott has bebop language in his playing. But I would say, like, this is true of anything that you play, like in the jazz world, like whatever lines you like and whatever style of stuff you like. Like, thinking small modules is really good. I think the same thing for fretboard mapping, so you're using, like, smaller scales, you know, as opposed to... I mean, it's good to be able to play like F7 all over the neck like that. But the reason why I can do that is because I'm thinking about it as smaller modules. So this is like a central practice, especially if you do the Barry Harris scale exercise, which I would advise everybody to do because it's the best way of getting scales over changes, in my opinion. But you'll see, like, these sort of modular ideas are really powerful, and I think maybe like a good exercise might be to take something, a lick that you like from one of your favourite players, and just break it down into little chunks and then see what you can do with the chunks. I suppose I could have made that video a lot faster if I just said that, but I hope you find that useful. Thanks for watching. Bye.